the transition, we've broken this down into a couple different categories here. And the first thing that we wanted to address is any physical assets that you might have. Things that were purchased with CFC funds to be used for the CFC. I don't want to start to express, because we're finding out that there are things out there that kind of amaze us that have been bought with CFC funds. We won't go into that, but so what we are saying is that we need to have a complete inventory done of all physical assets, and this provided to the LFCC for review and verification. And then once that review is done, then you need to determine what the current PCFO is going to still need to use to be able to complete the 2014 and 2015 campaigns. And remember, that means it goes all the way. The PCFO will new 2015 campaign. Let me just ask. I ask this question every year, and one year, well, I'm hoping this year I'll get the right answer. When does the 2015 campaign end? Thank you. Thank you. Yes, the 2015 campaign ends in 2017.
They shocked you, didn't they?
They did. I'm proud of them. So what funds do you think should be used to pay for any expenses related to the 2015 campaign? 2015 funds. We'll be getting there in a minute. But the point is that they might still need to use some of those, the computer systems, things like that, to complete the 2015 campaign. So you need to look over these things, what needs to still be used by the PCFO. Anything that doesn't need to be used by the PCFO through the transition, see what the LFCC might be able to use as they arrange with for the OC and everything, to see what should be just transferred over for the LFCC to use with the new OC. Then you need to determine which of the remaining assets have been fully depreciated. If they are fully depreciated, you can just dispose of them. If they are not fully depreciated and will not be used by the PCFO or the LFCC, you need to basically try sell them. Even however the easiest way for you to sell them, put them on Craigslist, whatever. Just try and get them sold at the least expensive way possible, and for the 2015 campaign ends, and use that money as undesignated. So and then finally, any assets that are being used by the current PCFO to complete the campaign will then be sold after they've completed it, or unless they are fully depreciated at that time, they can just dispose of them. And they can transfer those funds to the CCA, which will be used to help defray some of the CCA's expenses for that current year. So does any, well, I don't know if I should take questions on this section, or should I go through the whole thing? Okay, fine with me. Pledge receipts and distributions information. This case, we want all your records on this in electronic format. Yeah, I don't want paper. We're going paperless, remember? So you should be able, most of you use systems now. I don't know who's not using the electronic system now that you should be able to download bulk data. I've requested this kind of data before. I've requested detailed pledge data, so I know most of the systems out there do it. So, and you should just, complete pledge data, and still there, and the complete detailed receipts and disbursement information. So all the information you have, so, I know you're only required to keep it for the last 3 completed campaigns if that's all you have. Normally your electronic records you keep longer than that. So, and a couple of reasons we need this, if you recall, you've been getting a lot of emails from me lately, because I don't know why, but people are interested in this information, and I need to have it on file, so if I get FOIA requests, I'm not trying to track down the former PCFO that might have this information. I will have it on file to be able to respond to FOIA requests. A lot of the current information would be transferred to the CCA for the pledge DOT, but I need to have this stuff where if I get these FOIA requests, and you've seen them, they say, how much did this organization get from day one when it entered the CFC? And I'm like, well, I'll get you as much as I can. So I just need to have all the data that you still have electronically available transferred over to us. So the retention records, you must still retain your records in accordance with the regulations, which means that you have until April 1st, 2016 is when you can finally get rid of the 2011 records. April 1st, 2017 is when you can finally get rid of the 2012 records, and so on. So you'll still have records on hand until 2020. That'll be when the final 3 years is up and you'll be able to have destroyed all your records. So you will still have to maintain copies of any records that you have. And we already touched on this, and I was so proud of you. So CFC budgets must reflect the expenses incurred to administer the activities related to that campaign. So when you get your agreed upon procedures done this coming spring, summer, what campaign is the agreed upon procedures being performed on? 13. So what funds should be used to pay for those agreed upon procedures? 13 funds. You should have money left over, held aside from the 13 campaign to pay for those agreed upon procedures. So if your budget is not set to do this, and the other thing we got to remember is your budget's not set to continue to pay your finance people to make those distributions after your the transition. So they have to make the 2015 distributions through calendar year 2016, and then get that audit in 2017. If your budget is not set up to make sure that those items are covered, you need to get with your LFCC and discuss any revisions you need to make to your budget, because you will not be able to build CCA for any differences. So you need to make sure that those funds are held and available. You also need to make sure, remember that if your budget, when you get to the final, even if you haven't made your final distribution and you need to hold for those, if you go over 110% of your budget, the LFCC does not have the authority to approve you to be reimbursed for that amount. You have to actually come and ask either me or Keith. We don't usually approve that. I mean, there has to be a really, I will give an example of something I might approve. Back when Hurricane Katrina hit, the United Way had all of their brochures, the United Way in New Orleans had all their brochures printed, sitting in the basement of their United Way, just ready to go. And it was totally washed away and messed up, and they had to revitalize their entire campaign, do all sorts of things. I approved that over 10% of that increase of the budget. That's about the level I'm looking at if you're looking for an increase, because we've been talking about this for enough years that we expect the LFCCs and PCFOs to be working together and that not coming to me to be asking for exceptions to that rule. So, how did we get to that already? So, and that's kind of what we're right here talking about, the timeline in terms of when things are going to be due, and make sure that you've got things covered. So I think I covered most of the questions. So are there any other transition-related questions?
Abel Perales, Maricopa County,
Hey, Abel.
CFC. Hey, Mary, is it a possibility for people that use CFC Nexus for the electronic data just to have maybe a permission from our LFCC chair to maybe CFC assistant Kingsley to release that information to you that's in our systems now? Because you can email that stuff like all pledged.
That's fine if that's how you want to work it out with your contractors. You want to just ask them to go ahead and ship that stuff. That's fine with me. As long as I get the information, and it's an electronic format.
Yeah, it's always.
And when I say electronic, I did say Excel because I need something, that I can be able to open it again. So yeah, so if you want to have Kingsley, or if you want to have Nexus, or you want to have, I don't know if Vandar's has people, but you can do that, so.
My question is, how would you want these files labeled, where you would, to limit your research, by year? What you need to decide what type of these files will be labeled.
Okay, well, when we put out the written guidance, we'll let you know specifically. We'll say like campaign number, campaign year,
Right,
and things like that.
Instead of just sending you a file.
Yeah. I mean, this was to give you, was to give you a highlight, but we'll be putting out written specifics.
Also, I would suggest that you set up a mailbox specifically for receipt of this instead of you.
Yeah,
giving them
actually,
all
Marcus
this
just set me up a new mailbox. He was at work with IT and got me one that's compliance specific, so I'll be able to have people send it specifically to that compliance mailbox, yes.
Okay.
I just want to tag on to that. Because it does contain such critical information, can you please include directions on how the PCFO would secure that Excel document?
In terms of making it a password protected file, yes.
Correct.
So one of the last things that we just recently did when we approved the budget for our PCFO for 2015 is we authorized the reimbursement of the expenses from 2014. And so other than the audit, those PCFOs that are no longer affiliated with CFC come 2017 want reimbursement, or 2016, whenever it is. Who do they go to get authorized reimbursement of their actual expenses?
You should still have some of the since you'll have the new joint LFCC, but it consists of members from each one. Your LFCC
If that
doesn't,
happens, yeah.
Your LFCC does not disperse for the 2015 campaign until that. Now, it doesn't have a lot to do, after the solicitation period, except do some monitoring. But yeah, they aren't officially.
Okay, so the defunct PCFOs will go to the existing body that is overseeing the current campaign, even though they had no experience possibly with that agency administering the campaign.
No, what I'm saying, you're the
I know.
LFCC for the 2015 campaign.
But if I'm gone, Mary, if everybody that's currently in place is gone, nobody's going to have that experience.
But what do you do now? Because right now it should have been the 2014.
The new guys.
Pardon me?
Pass it to the new guys.
Pass it to the new guys. Well, then what I would say is that you need to have some, and I saw the long list of your LFCC members, Robert. I would hope that of that about 50 people you had on that list, that that there's one person left around, because you've been here.
All right, Mary, I'll do it.
Yes, John.
Hey, hi, Mary. John from Spokane, Washington, PCFO. Question I got, all these slides that you've been showing today that wasn't in our package, hopefully that's going to be sent to us by Monday or Tuesday or something like that. So I'm having a meeting with our LFCC next week since he couldn't make it to this meeting. And there's a lot of information between the PCFO and the LFCC that we need to get out to each other. So what is your plan?
We'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Tomorrow?
Oh.
I won't even be back in the office tomorrow.
Okay.
Are you in Monday? I want to put Curtis on the hook to send it out Monday.
Okay. Thank you.
So
Hi,
you
Pia,
just learned
Central
in real
Florida.
time how this stuff goes down.
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Just want to confirm that I'm understanding this correctly on the remaining assets that should be sold and funds distributed as undesignated funds in the 2015. So if I'm understanding it right, if we sell anything or we have all these extra things, whatever, we have to do it before the March 31 deadline of 2017?
Yes, you should sell all the assets except the ones that the PCFO is going to continue to need to use, and the ones that are being transferred over to the LFCC for continued use. Yes.
Okay, but we do have till March.
Yes, till the final
Okay,
distribution.
and then the other one, like you were saying, if it's equipment that we're using, that's just going to go to the new CCA because we're past the March deadline.
The money that you get from that would go to the new CCA and would help just cover some of the expenses. So, yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Fred Alonso, LFCC, and Postmaster from far Texas, okay? That is your full-time job, what you're out there doing right now. My full-time job is as postmaster. As LFCC member or chairperson, it is impossible for us to do the test that you're saying for us to do. We depend on the PFCOs right now to take care of all those things for us in order to be able to run a smooth transition. About 10 years ago, when I started with them, the post office fell apart completely. We were raising $60,000 to $80,000, per year. It dropped to $5,000. Okay? I picked it up, and right now we're doing 100,000, 100 over, But again, it takes a lot of work from our part, and the only way we can make it is by their help. The PFCO, from McAllen, Texas. If they weren't there to support us as the backbone, we wouldn't do it. You're trying to give us a full-time job, like your job right now that you have, which is impossible for us to do because we work as postmasters 10 to 12 hours a day.
I think you're a little confused as to what we're trying to do because
Let it go. Let it go.
the
Let it go, Mary.
pardon me?
Just let it go.
Okay. We still have an OC that's going to do the PCFO's job.
A portion of the functions.
Well, that's what I mean. It's impossible for us, as LFCCs to do and to try to have a smooth transition as you want to see it, I mean, like right now, we're depending on them to support us as our backbone, And for us to try to do something like that and have the smooth transition that you all want is going to be impossible.
Well, one of the things that we, again, want to do as a support mechanism is for each OPM representative that set up the call, I'm not sure if you got a chance to make the first call that we did, was talk about and sort of catalog what are the huge bumps in understanding the regulations, implementing the regulations as you understand them, and then clarifying through our Q&As that we develop to find out what do we need to help you with in terms of transition, understanding, leveraging the current LFCCs that are around you that will merge together so that it's not a burden on any one area. I understand the Postal Service has some really unique scenarios. Just from talking to, we had a person from the Postal Service on the commission, and we have had several conversations with the Postal Service payroll office about what the unique challenges are of the Postal Service.
Again,
So,
like right now, on the map that you have for the transition period.
Sure.
Like, for example, I fall under South Texas, San Antonio, okay? But yet, San Antonio is going to be pulled away from there, and we're going to be in the Houston, Corpus area. So how does that work? My boss is not going to say, go because she's in San Antonio, and I'm in South Texas. So again, the way you divided the map does not actually help us work and coordinate things efficiently with our organization as a whole, the Postal Service.
right, so is that your area?
That's Marcus's area.
Marcus's area? Well,
But I will
again,
say,
I just have it color-coded, but what I want to, again, offer up.
Now, the thing that would help make a smooth transition, like for example for South Texas, would be to make sure that we have an OC there in McAllen to make sure that that person continues coordinating, or two, because right now, the PFCO is the one that's holding us, it's the one that's supporting us. So we need to make sure that we're covered and that we do have at least those two positions there in South Texas to be able to have a smooth transition.
Okay.
Right, and we haven't dictated what that should look like, but instead opened up the dialogue to understand the uniquenesses in your particular zone so that those challenges could be put on the table and we could address them. So again, I'm not here to offer you a solution on the spot, but I certainly want to be involved in some of those calls where
But
we're
again,
actually
you're
trying.
dividing our territory for the Southwest area, which is San Antonio, Corpus, Austin, that we fall under one boss, and now you're dividing it and giving it to a different map, to a different zone, like you called it,
well, you are allowed to discuss with the other LFCC if you think that you fit better with the other area. Your two LFCCs can talk together and say, I think, and your exact reasoning there,
Right.
all of our, we align here. And you
Right.
could have your area moved into that other zone where you are more aligned.
And this is where we would need their numbers so we can communicate with the other persons that are in the same zone.
Absolutely.
And we'll,
Absolutely.
more than
We'll
happy to
provide those
give those to you. If you want to send Marcus an email, he'll be happy to give you that information. Marcus is like,
I didn't want to say that, but again, I've committed to this all along. This is our initial thrust, and then we want to work and fine tune and tweak what we believe in the territory works best. We didn't want to be that prescriptive up front, but we do want to have the dialogue on
The
what
important
best
thing
fits.
is not to leave us out when you do get those OCs, you know,
Absolutely.
in South area, because again, they are the backbone that has made our organization or charity as
Gotcha.
successful as we are.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
My question is about the assets and disposal of the assets. What do you consider assets, and all of the other stuff that we have that's not necessarily considered an asset? Do we donate it to charities? Do we
Well, I
give it
think-
away?
Yeah, the thing was that we first inventory it, and then we can figure out if it's an
Okay.
asset or not. You know,
Okay.
there's a lot of scenarios, useful life,
So you want an
condition, all-
inventory of everything that is CFC owned?
that you use to run the ops. You know,
Okay.
computers, chairs, desks. I mean, these are typical things that happen when we have changes in PCFOs already. So we're just saying, as an extension of that, this is what we would need to look at first. I don't envision, and maybe I could be wrong, Mary, is there's going to be a lot of sale of really new stuff.
no, I'm not envisioning
So-
that either.
No, I know that we have like
Yeah.
a storage room full of old portfolios, old certificates, old pens. You know, you want an inventory of all of that stuff that we could probably just toss or pass on.
Well,
And
if
a lot
it's
of
of a
it has
nominal
Heart of
value.
Alabama CFC imprinted on it.
Hold on a second, folks. I'm having trouble hearing. Thanks.
Heart of Alabama CFC imprinted on it. You have a new zone that's not going to be
Right.
Heart of Alabama. Just dispose of it or let you know we have it.
Well, it won't have a value to it if it's specific to Heart of Alabama, so that's
So
where
is
you and the
that up to us
LFCC,
as a PCFO to determine?
you and the
Work
LFCC
with the
determine it
LFCC.
together.
Okay.
Right.
Was that gentleman waiting to speak? Okay.
I just wanted to make a quick clarification point. We are talking about assets that were purchased only with CFC money.
Yes.
Correct.
Because I know there may be people that aren't necessarily hearing that and saying, okay,
Only with
the command
CFC.
gave me this, so that's,
Right.
you know.
No.
So,
That's a good
okay.
point of clarification. Only CFC funds.
My name is Steve Taylor. I'm with United Way Worldwide, and actually, it looked like we might be transitioning to the Ask OPM Anything phase, and I know we're running a little
Well-
behind, but I didn't want to put us. If somebody has a transition question,
Steve.
I want to be sure they can go first.
Go
I have
ahead.
a very basic question. Now that we're in zones, we are no longer Greater North Carolina Area CFC. What are we?
Well, actually, for 2015, you're not in the zones.
Yes.
So you're still Greater
But-
North Carolina
But
CFC.
2016, what are we?
Well, I think that's where you guys get, your LFCC gets together and tries to determine what they want to call it. We weren't naming you, because some, like I said in my call, the names probably fit. Heartland, to me, the name still fit for where it was.
It's up to
so it's
the
really up to you guys.
LFCCs to
So the
decide.
LFCC gets to pick the name, and we're still going to have
Right.
Just
different CFCs.
just be careful. When you choose it, be careful that you don't choose one that's. I know when Bruce, I think initially wanted to be called the Mountain Campaign, and I had to advise him that there was a campaign in West Virginia that already had that name, and he wanted to fight over who was the real mountains, I think is what he said. So,
We're not anticipating that much confrontation over names, but Steve.
Hi, thanks. Again, I'm Steve Taylor with United Way Worldwide. I am not with the PCFO. I'm not with the LFCC. I don't work for OPM. I might be the only one in the room that isn't one of those things. I don't know, maybe there's somebody else here. I'm here mainly, I came today to observe because this transition, the rules, is very, very important to United Way, to lots of United Ways, and I wanted to get a sense of this. And I have to say, of all the conferences I've been to in my life, I have never been to a conference that is much as stressful as this one. The level of angst is unbelievable. Is this how it is every year, or is this?
So, Steve, I guess
That's
what
not
I
my
would say
question.
to comment number one is that you just haven't been to enough.
Yeah, I guess. Lots of learning. So I think that the angst and the stress is, my observation is that everybody in this room really cares deeply about the CFC, including the folks up on the panel. We recognize that. We know you guys care about it. We know everybody here cares about it. What I've heard is a lot of detailed questions. A lot of them have gone over my head, but it seems to me that a lot of the stress is concerned about what the new rules are going to, the larger impact that it's going to have on CFC. My first question really is for this audience, and this is based on conversations that I've had with a number of people here and with United Ways. And I'm interested in knowing by show of hands how many people here think that the new rules combined with the consolidation of the CFCs is going to result in a reduction in participation in the CFC. So how many people in this room think that the new rules are going to result in a reduction to giving to the CFC? All right, so how many people in this room, this is a little bit harder question, I don't know if we'll get what it'll be, but how many people believe that in 5 years, on the trajectory that we're on, that the CFC will be less than $100 million? On the track. So this is what United Way believes. The people that raise their hands, this is United Way's perspective. And I hope the non-United Way people in the room will indulge me for a second, because United Way's perspective is formed based on our experience running workplace campaigns. United Way invented workplace giving. We raised $2.5 billion every year through workplace giving campaigns. And from my view, our workplace giving campaigns are not very different from the CFC. It's money that people have earned. It's their private money, and they're giving that money to private charity through a mechanism. We do that through 1,200 separate autonomous local United Ways. We fund 37,000 agencies. We do that with overhead cost of less than 10%. There is no centralization. There's no main rules that United Way Worldwide puts out to people. And so when we look at what drives workplace giving, we're looking at our firsthand experience, and we're very concerned that what's going on with these rules is contrary to decades worth of experience. There's a lot of good issues raised about accountability and transparency and risk and that sort of thing. And what I'd say we do is we manage the risk. We don't try to eliminate the risk. And when you manage risk, sometimes bad things happen. And we're not a stranger to being held accountable. United Ways have had issues. What happens is the United Way CEO gets fired. A United Way will lose its membership as United Way, and the United Way name will be raked over the coals. But it doesn't happen very often because we manage the risk really well. My question about accountability, though, goes to this and goes to the rules. If this group of people that raise their hands are right about what will happen on this trajectory, and the CFC goes down the way people think that it will under these rules, does that matter? And if it does matter to OPM, who will be held accountable for that? That's my question.
Sure. So I won't really respond to the comments. I'll focus on the question. Accountability will start with me. Okay? So if anybody's head rolls, it's going to be right here. Okay? it's going to be me, because that's what the director of the agency will do. And I understand that risk. What I also understand is the risk of the continued processes that have got us here. So if you ask the question differently, if we don't change the rule, will we continue on the same trajectory? So I see nodding, but I don't see hands being raised. Okay, so as they say back in my hometown, what's a guy to do? Nothing is not an option. Doing nothing is not a solution. So what we attempted to do, OPM, was to get people who understood the industry to give us recommendations on a way forward. And so whether we want to say that the commission had the right people at the right time, or OPM cherry-picked it, or however you want to do it, we believe we extended an invitation to PCFOs, charities, federal employees who had been in the business of workplace giving and could advise us that workplace giving is now being transformed into telework giving for federal employees, and the workplace isn't what it used to be 10 years ago. And so how do we address not only workplace changing to, you know, our bedrooms or our offices at home, how do we deal with the issues of infusing the technological advances that have been part of the change in how our workplace and our workforce works? So all those questions came out during the commission discussions. All of those discussions were public. And at that time, you know, we even took, and I think we got a letter from your organization on what was being proposed at that time, and we responded accordingly. Now, is it a perfect solution? I, you know, don't know. But I'm not sure staying the course is exactly the best position as well. But either way it goes, I'm on the hook for it.
So I want to be clear that we would not ever argue in United Way's position is not stay the course. United Ways have for some time been quite unhappy with the combined federal campaign before the rules. We think there's some very deeply rooted issues with how the CFC functions that go to current restrictions that are imposed on the CFC by OPM. It's not just the new rules, it's decades of the old rules that limit the PCFO's ability to reach into the workplace and really engage with the employees. Okay. So to get to the problems, it's not consolidation from our view. That's great for efficiency, but it's being able to really effectively engage the employees. And very few people that I've talked to think that the new rules do that, and I think that we think that there's a different way to do it, not the status quo, not the new rules. I would also say, having sort of established the foundation for United Way's experience and knowledge about how to run workplace campaigns, we face those exact same issues. It's not just the federal workforce that's changing, it's workforce across the country and across the world. And we're in the middle of those challenges ourselves. But United Way was not part of the CFC. United Way Worldwide, United Way of America then was not part of the CFC 50 Commission. We should have been there. There were a couple of small United Way run CFC members that were on, but not even the United Way CEOs of those small United Ways. And United Way of America was not invited. Our letter came to you after the rules were done. We could have contributed quite a bit to that conversation, I think. So.
Okay, that's fair. Thanks, Steve.
Robert?
All right. So my hand goes up with you, Keith. I take responsibility whether we make it or not. I care about this. It's important. It changes lives. So my hand goes up with you. I'm going to drive whether we're going to pull this off or not. It's a big change. and I've got my work cut out for me. But if it's going to work, I'm the one that's going to make it work. You need to listen to us. You need to take the communication step from our lunchtime and listen to us and form the groups, because we do have the good ideas to share with you if you reach out to us and listen to us.
Absolutely.
And if you could pull up the map that shows our zones, our 40 zones, you just flashed by it. This is the biggest accomplishment. There's no white spots. None. Every employee, if we pull this off, guys, ladies, can contribute. Universal giving allows them to do that. And if we work with OPM, it may not be everything we want, but it's workable, and we can improve it.
Sorry. I think most of us in this room acknowledge that there are changes that need to be made, and we applaud some of the changes that you're putting into place. That's not the issue. What I feel, and what I think a lot of people feel, is that the changes are going to be brought about in less than a year. Questions were asked at the last conference that I wasn't at, and I found out that we didn't have any answers then. And a lot of times we're asking questions that all of us go, yeah, that happens in my campaign, and we look up at you, and you're all like, you haven't thought about those consequences, or our timeline is so short of what we need to accomplish that we're scared. We're worried about getting that accomplished. And I just wanted to say one thing to Mr. Taylor from United Way. I appreciated his comments, but there's one difference here in running the United Way versus what we're doing, is that we're government employees. They're different. United Ways are working with different state and local governments. We have, I don't know, what is it, 70 agencies? But we're all one employer, technically. And so it is a little bit different.
Thanks.
Jerry Clayman from the Gateway Combined Federal Campaign. Before I got into the business of being a PCFO, I had about a dozen years as a small environmental federation in the state of Missouri. And I can tell you that I have a lot of great friends here that are United Way people. There's a ton of great people in United Way, but United Way was a vicious, and vicious is the right word to use here, competitor. I love the CFC. Is it perfect? No. Neither is United Way, though. I have a lot of faith in you guys that you're getting this feedback from us. I was as scared as anybody else when this process first started. I'm completely on board right now because I think that we're going to keep making this better. You're going to hear it. Yeah, we're going to maybe take some dips, we're going to take some losses, but we'll come back then stronger. We're moving into the future. I believe in that vision. I think that's great. I love the CFC because it's inclusive. All those choices. United Way, frankly, has a monopoly in the corporate world that they won't let the rest of us in. You know, I beat on that door a long, long, long time. Yeah, United Way's got a lot of things right, no doubt, but I'm not a big, gigantic fan of the way they've treated not just a small environmental federation, but everybody else that's not them out there in the marketplace. So I just, it got me choked up when I started hearing all the criticism of you guys because I don't feel that way. I'm here because this, to me, is the platinum standard for workplace giving. Is it perfect? So thank you. I'm on board, and I hope the rest of you, yeah, it's scary. It's going to be a rocky ride, no doubt about it. But we can just keep tweaking the machine until we get it to run right. Let's go with that.
Thanks.
I'm not going to bash you.
I'll take a number.
Look, I work for the Internal Revenue Service. I know what bashing is. I think we're at the head of the crowd.
So, isn't that the same hand you had the notes on from this morning?
I have some new notes.
Oh.
This is where I keep up with stuff.
Fire away.
Okay, the first thing, when they were talking about the transition of products, my thing would be, since this is our last year, the way we are now, that people would not put their names on those products, just put CFC. That way, they better transition to the next level, and
good
they
idea.
can save money.
It's a good idea.
Another thing is, I told you the IRS got bashed real bad. You know how our budget is. They took us way down. And we don't even travel as much as we used to. So a lot of the federal agencies don't travel as much. So a lot of LFCCs can't travel like they used to different places. So I'm hoping that you guys would take that into consideration in how we do business, because we have areas, and even though we cover a lot of states, we're still trying to discover what agencies are in our state. They're hiding from us. I don't know why.
Not on purpose, because you bash people.
They're hiding from us. So as much information as you guys can share as you get it
Sure.
to the
Absolutely.
LFCCs as to who is actually in our state hiding would help us a whole lot.
We can do
and
that.
lastly, when you're talking about your charges, please think about a smaller, in Mississippi, Mississippi has the highest giving ratio of any state in the whole country. Per capita, we give more than anybody in here. I don't care what y'all say. We are poor, but we know what it is to be poor, so we give, okay? So when you're thinking about that, most of the agencies I go to when I sneak off to my agency fairs, and if anybody's from IRS is in here, you didn't hear that. When I go to the agency fair, the first thing I'm asked is, well, we want some local places to give to. And unfortunately, most of those local agencies that we go and get and put in our book are small agencies. So if you make your fees too high, we can't provide them those small agencies they want. They don't want those agencies all off in Timbuktu or Swaziland or someplace like that. They want home ground people. So please think about that.
I appreciate that. We will. Well, we have some cue cards, some Q&A material. So, but don't be shy. This isn't a shy brunch show. If you didn't submit one, you still have time, right? Am I speaking out of turn, Shelley? Okay. All right. Since I got the mic, I'll just take the first one. It says, when will the look back provision be implemented? After the first year or the fifth year? So I did speak very quickly about the rulemaking process that we engaged in is a tremendous experience. I'll just put it that way. And so as we were going through the final rules, and some of the stakeholders were coming in and visiting OMB, and we were listening politely to their challenges and how the rules would impact them, OMB decided, okay, guys, this is a pretty large change. We understand it. We agree with it. It aligns with the shared service concept that we have been deploying across agencies for the last 20 years. However, you all need to look at and monitor the results of these changes. And so you need to provide us with information about the impact at least by the fifth year. Now, that means that we have up to the fifth year, or we could do it the fourth year, or we could do it all along. As many of you know, I like to, if I'm going to make changes, I like to have some kind of data point that says, this is what's happening, therefore you might want to go right or left. So we're going to be doing our best and challenging the CCA to provide us as much information as possible every year that campaign starts new from 2016 forward, so that we can start to see what is developing with the impact of the rules, good or bad. And as we see, we're going to propose amongst ourselves if we need to make a tweak or don't make a tweak, and what would that tweak be, and how would that tweak impact things. So the look back provision is actually a good thing. It puts a lot more responsibility on OPM, but at least then we'll have the data. It will be centralized. We won't be having to go to 40 zones to try to get it. It'll be right there. So, the look back provision's there. If we need to make changes, we will. We can do it anytime during the 5-year period. I know it was a long answer, but.
Okay, so My first question was, when will MyPay work for all campaigns? The simple answer is never. I am sorry to say that. We went through a lot to try to get Employee Express in as many campaigns as possible, knowing that it was going to be you said the backbone. I like that. It's the backbone for MyPay, and MyPay was then put into the Employee Express campaigns. However, as we get toward a one-stop shop donor platform, putting resources into MyPay, and they have their own user control board, they make their own decisions. It's been decided that they don't want to put the resources into something that's only going to last 1 year. And I think we can appreciate that. Budgets are being cut everywhere. It makes sense. However, as a concept, MyPay will be available in all campaigns in 2016. That concept being electronic giving. So everyone will have access to a MyPay-like experience, not just for DFAST customers, not just in certain campaigns, every employee everywhere. Robert pointed out, no white space. Everybody will have access to an online giving platform in some form in 2016.
All right, mine's pretty short and sweet. When does no cash take effect? It does not impact this fall's campaign period. So we're still under the current rules. This fall, cash is still in play. It goes into effect with the 2016 solicitation period, so another year.
Okay. Why are LFCCs being conference called prior to CFC training, bypassing the PCFOs? Well, there's a reason I slid back to this slide, because I'm trying to figure out, when I look at this slide and I see OPM oversees the LFCCs, which oversees the PCFO, how could OPM contacting the LFCCs and asking for input from them, that they want input from LFCCs, how does that bypass the PCFO? I'm just trying to figure, I'm looking at this slide in terms of that. The LFCCs are under the direction of the OPM director. The LFCCs are our board of directors out there that oversee the campaign. We needed input from the LFCCs. So we contacted the LFCCs to get some input that we needed.
Right, and when she said director, she wasn't talking about this director.
No, I'm talking about Mrs. Archuleta.
Director
I do not
Archuleta.
call her by her first name. She is Director Archuleta.
That's right. So the next question I have is, it says, looking down the road, how does OPM expect the Postal Service to participate in the CFC campaign when over 90% of the employees don't have computer access? So this has sort of been, the long pole in the tent. We got a lot of comments, even during the interagency comment period, which was not the public comment period, but agencies. We immediately, not that we didn't have a relationship with Postal Service payroll, but we immediately rekindled that relationship to try to find out exactly what it is their system does or doesn't do for other employee benefits. How do postal employees select their health insurance? How do postal employees select their life insurance? If they have a life event, how do they change their life insurance to accommodate that? If they get married, how do they add a child or a spouse to it? So basically just saying, let's just forget CFC for a moment, and let's look at how you currently employees manage information dealing with HR. We had a different conversation then. They did tell us that there are opportunities for postal services to periodically go in, check their statuses for HR, pull out earnings and leave statements that are provided by either kiosks or things of that nature. Now, having said that, they did also say that they believe that this impact of having an online system would negatively impact Postal Service. And so we said, okay. So we need more information on how we would do this, how we would educate donors or potential donors how to use things online, or maybe we never get fully paperless. So we put in the 5-year provision, almost for that reason. And so we now continue to allow for paper to accommodate not only Postal Service, but Custom Border Patrol. There are other organizations that TSA that had raised this challenge with us. And so we're going to continue to look at that. We're going to continue to monitor it, and we're going to continue to work with the Postal Service on a long-term strategy. So we're not just going to mandate or push that thing out at this point.
So the next question is, why aren't we using recognition gifts, quote, made in America? That's a good question. Why are you not using donor gifts made in America? If this is something that you want, and a lot of people feel very strongly about it, we get, along with Where's My Eagle, my lapel pin only has 13 stripes on it. That's real email, okay? LFCCs have the power and should be involved in the process of determining the donor recognition program in a campaign. If this is something you feel strongly about, if you happen to know that your federal employees feel strongly about it, ensure that your products are made in America. That one was easy.
All right, why are we allowing charities with a high admin cost in the campaign? We had a charity with a 96% admin cost listed. Years ago, those of you who've been around in the CFC a while know that years ago we had a 25% cap on what the administrative and fundraising rate could be. If a charity went over that, they had to give us an explanation of what happened and what they were doing to correct it. That was a tremendous, tremendous amount of work. I got to tell you that. That probably doubled the workload in the application review, at least with the national groups. But we did it. The problem with it versus the other elements of the application review is it is subjective. And if it was a reasonable reason for the cost and it was a reasonable plan to adjust. OPM was sued multiple times by charities. This held up the release of the charity list into August, which impacted all of you and your operations. So OPM made the decision that the donors are smart people. We'll print this AFR in the brochure, buyer beware, and move forward. So in 2007, we removed that cap, and now charities can apply regardless of their rate.
I'm going to just quickly with Marcus, the concern with it was that the lapel pin did not have 13 stripes on it. It was actually a concern that came in from a federal donor that their little lapel pin that they got, they said they could understand it not having 50 stars, but they were very upset that it didn't have 13 stripes. So these are the kinds of things that we get, so I'm just letting you know. Also, my question seems to almost be redundant now based on what Keith went through. The question I got, looking long term, how much of a decline in donations from Postal Service is being forecasted with the elimination of paper pledges? Well, as Keith said, our discussions with the post office, although they are very much for going as paperless as we can, and they are actually very much interested in working with us to try and get to that point. But that was one of the reasons, along with the other comments that we got, but they were one of the key reasons that we are not eliminating paper pledges. They are being reduced, and we're doing that look back so that we can see what kind of effect. But the paper pledges are not being eliminated until, at least 2021, and that's only if, once we do that look back, we determine that it is a good time to eliminate the paper pledges.
Oh, okay. When will we know who the OCs are? When can they apply? Okay, so 2015, don't worry about OCs, not a big deal. So following that, ideally, it would be the same process as selecting a PCFO with pretty much the same timeline. And So that would put you in the December to February timeframe of selecting an OC for that year's 2016's campaign. Does that answer the question?
But a lot of groundwork before that, but certainly that's what we're looking at right now.
Can I add some information? When we're talking about the Postal Service in regards to going online for FEHB or one of those things, last April, I think it was, is that they instituted that all of that stuff was to be done online. So the Postal Service does have all of those things as online.
Who instituted that? Who did you say instituted that requirement?
The United States Postal Service.
Okay, so it wasn't OPM, it was Postal Service.
Well, it's through Postal Ease, so
Oh, okay.
everybody had to get a new, longer password.
Okay.
And they had to have it ready for this past open season.
Okay.
Because all open season would be conducted online.
Has there been any blowback or?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm no longer in HR,
Gotcha.
but it's not going to take effect for anybody unless they were trying to change. Most people are keeping their same plan. So I think it's only when they go to change that they see, that they can't do it.
What about loan, their leave and earnings?
Yeah, all of that is available through Postal
Online.
Ease. It's called e-payroll.
Yeah.
They
I'm
can
familiar.
see all that with that same password, but we
Okay.
can't donate through that.
No, I understand. So I just, again, I was just trying to figure out what was being done now with the other benefit
We
programs.
still send, unless an employee requests not to, they still get a paper payroll stub in the mail. So people are not looking online unless they choose to only look online. So I don't even know how many of the employees out in the field, carriers and stuff, know that they can do that.
All right, we're getting the hook, so I think we got two more.
I've got two more questions. Does anybody have?
Go for it.
Well, well, this one actually is really, really easy. Will there be a CFC app? Do I assume with AP that this means application in terms of the same CFC applications we're talking now, or are we talking about an app on your iPhone? iPhone app. That can be discussed. It's not being considered right now because that would be. We're trying to get the system up and running. We don't want to complicate it with too many other requirements. It's definitely something that can be looked at in the future, and possibly could be. I don't see a reason why not. I can pretty much guarantee it won't be for 2016.
But I want one.
And I understand that. That's why I'm saying I don't see. I
No,
can
I
picture
think-
there being one, but I can't picture it being ready for 2016. But that doesn't mean that it can't be ready.
So I'll
later.
jump in here, and with my 4-year-old, soon-to-be 4-year-old, she's going to have an app. So obviously, we're not going to do that for 2016, but we are definitely looking at any way to engage federal employees that are the workplace givers or potential givers of the future. We're going to have to move in that direction.
My main focus is to make sure we've got a functioning system doing what it needs to do first year in 2016. Then we can look at bells and whistles. Okay, now this final question that I have, when do PCFOs actually dissolve? As a CFC regional director, when does my job end? December 31? Well, I guess that has a lot to do with what your responsibilities are. As we talked earlier, the 2015 campaign does not end until 2017. So I don't know what your responsibilities are. How much are you involved in the pledge processing after the fact, the distributions? That's really between you and your agency, so it really depends on when the duties that you are responsible for will no longer be required. As we kind of gone through that timeline, but that's the best I can say.
There's some organizations that once you set up your pledge, then it just continues until you stop it. Is there any works that you guys have ever considered that if somebody sets up $10, it's going to stay until they change it? And just continue on and not have to be changed?
It was suggested at one point, and it's being looked into. I think the suggestion was there just be a checkbox saying, continue my current pledge.
Right.
But
There has
yeah.
to be some acknowledgement that you want it to continue. I don't think we currently can just, in perpetuity, continue withholding. So I think it'd be more of a check the box.
Can I get one question in?
Sure.
Thanks, Keith. My question is, would you ever look at maybe moving the campaign starting in August versus September? Because it seems like a lot of the complaints I had through my LFCC and federal employees is always through Thanksgiving and Christmas, close to Christmas. If you're going to move the charity applications up to earlier, that the book would be out and everything else will be out earlier, are they looking at maybe potentially changing the campaign?
Yeah, right now it's not in the cards. We're just, with the first movement with the rules of expanding it from September to January 15th is the first thrust. But again, we have a look back provision to see how all this stuff is going to work or what the impact potentially is. I just want to say this real quick. I cannot imagine working with a more passionate set of people about a program. I've spent most of my life either in an automotive factory or working in the accounting world or audit world or health insurance. I had an opportunity in 2010 given to me by Director Barry to have a different set of lenses to look through. And this was it. This was it. I spent a lot of time reforming OPM's financial operations, working with shared service providers, helping them get clean opinions, working in programmatic areas, advising directors on financial issues. But in my span and career, I have never met any group of people singularly more focused on doing good than I have since I met all of you. And I mean that. It's been 5 years in this city, full circle for me. And I get choked up when I start thinking about the impact that we can make in the community given what we collectively know what should be done. And if I have to will it myself, I'm going to try with every ounce that I have to will it and get it done. Get on the calls. The commission knows we were trading emails at 3 o'clock in the morning with the West Coast, trying to get issues resolved, to get that report out on time. I will do the same thing for this. Because at the end of the day, I've spent my whole entire career outside of manufacturing working in employee benefits on behalf of federal employees who want to get that right. Whether I've sent doctors to jail in the healthcare arena, I've shut down Blue Cross and Blue Shield organizations because they weren't doing the right thing for federal employees. That's my goal, is to make sure that we have the best possible system, apparatus, infrastructure, to build a pipeline for all the people who are going to come to this program. Current employees, my daughter, retirees, all the same for me. That was the same message I had at the opening of the commission. That is the same message I have ending this today. It has not changed. My life has changed a lot at home, okay? But this is my singular focus and drive. I want to thank everybody here for all your hard work, and I mean that. We still got a lot of work to do. I'm rolling up my sleeve, taking off my tie when I got homework to do when I get back. And this is it. This is what we do. We try to make other federal employees opportunities for attracting, retaining, and engaging them in the workplace as best we can. That's what we do at OPM. We want to put the best benefit package forward. And that's my mission, and I appreciate you all helping me with that.